Hello and welcome to Gaming Friday here on Off the Shelf Reviews.
I'm Ian.
And I'm Gary. And today we are taking a look at a classic, spelled with a K, Mortal Kombat. And this is a game that came out all the way back in 1992. And damn that now it makes me feel old.
Yeah.
Game was actually originally developed by Midway Games' Chicago studio. But, you know, Midway kind of went bankrupt.
After a while, yeah.
Mortal Kombat was acquired by Warner Brothers, which was then turned into the NetherRealm Studios, which is something that we've seen in pretty much every Mortal Kombat game that's come out
from
since.
now on, yeah.
Interestingly, Mortal Kombat is actually been available on pretty much every single home console that there has been since the early 90s.
Yes,
It appeared on the Game Boy, the SNES, the Master System, the Mega Drive, the Xbox, the PlayStation, PC. You name the console and there's a Mortal Kombat game for it.
Oh, look at these graphics. Oh, this is the old school. Oh, yes.
Wow. Well, this game set a benchmark for fighting games. But it actually started development in 1991 with just 4 people.
Wow.
This entire game was made by just 4 people. Ed Boon, John Tobias, John Vogel, and Dan Forden.
Yeah.
It was just literally 4 guys. So you got a programmer, 2 graphics guys, and a sound guy.
And this was groundbreaking for his time as well, because it's actual people.
Well, that's it. They've changed, because obviously if you look at, I don't know, maybe Street Fighter, which was its biggest rival at the time, of course, they are just, cartoon sprites.
Yeah.
Whereas for this, they actually photographed actors and got them in the positions for each of the unique moves. Nice one. You're going to finish.
Yeah, I'm going to
finish
fade down there. Yay. I'm going to rip off everybody's head as you go through this.
Cool.
That's my aim.
Well, originally, this wasn't even supposed to be the game that we have here now.
Yeah.
Originally, Boon and Tobias were approached to create a video game adaptation of the film Universal Studio. Universal Soldier. which originally, obviously starring martial artist Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah. And
he was going to be digitized, and then they were going to make a fighting game on him.
Yeah.
Eventually, they took quite a while.
Bitch.
They took quite a while to make the game, and so they eventually lost the rights to actually make a Universal Soldier game.
Yeah.
And so subsequently, they lost the rights to making a Jean-Claude Van Damme game. And so, kind of as a joke, the Johnny Cage character is still kind of what's left of the Van Damme character.
Yeah.
Which is why it's kind of a bit of a joke that Johnny Cage is a movie star with like 2 movies recently under his belt, who is a martial artist.
Yeah.
So that's where the Johnny Cage character originally came from, which I think is kind of a pretty cool joke.
Let's get some Johnny Cage on the go.
Because originally they wanted to make a Bloodsport type game where you had to fight these different fighters as you progressed.
Yeah.
And then it was literally Street Fighter that came out, and then they went, okay, we've lost the rights to that. How about we make a Street Fighter with gore in it and blood and violence? Yeah. And the series really does have, the biggest reputation in entire gaming history for being, one of the goriest, and that was with the fatalities, the finishers, the stage finishers, and eventually the other sort of fatalities that they would bring in and some of the goofy ones.
Yeah. It was all about the gore back in the day. I mean, a lot of people complain about the violence, but I was just like, nobody said anything about Street Fighter. Street Fighter was absolutely fine to beat the crap out of people and beat up cars.
But it had no blood.
Yeah, that is true. This game was the first one to really introduce blood, but you needed the games. Kids were growing up. They realized that it wasn't just all colorful like Sonic and Mario made it out to be. If you jumped on an animal, you were probably going to kill it. So having this, the parents were the ones that were like, "Oh, we don't want our kids playing this." But it's like,
well, that's what actually would then lead in part to the creation of the ESRB, which is the video games rating system. And so that there was then, put upon every single box and every single case of every single Mortal Kombat game that's come on, every game that's come out today, which tells parents what sort of content loosely is going to be in there.
Oh, I'm gonna punch you in the balls. I'm gonna punch you in the balls. I'm gonna punch you in the balls.
Also, I mean, there's, when you look at the Mortal Kombat history of games, you can actually see the technological advancements in the gaming sort of world as they would progress through. And I think it's the first sort of 3 or 4 Mortal Kombat games that are 2D, as they are now, which do incorporate these actor models. Before they would turn into sort of 3D computerized digital models with a more 3D environment.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat 3 would go for a while. Come on, gotta push the buttons, gotta push the buttons. Come on. What buttons is it? These buttons? This button? Come on. Hey! Time's up.
I don't know.
I just hit the button for him to break it.
Well, it's again something very similar to what Street Fighter did, where it kind of broke up the monotony of fight after fight.
Yeah, to break cars and stuff like that.
Yeah. But, also looking back at these old Mortal Kombats, there's just one fighting style.
Yeah.
There's no... every character, I guess, has some variation of a mixed martial art.
Yeah, Kano's more brawling, where Liu Kang's more Shaolin Monkey discipline style. Sonya Blades is more like
some of them are based in real life martial arts, and others are kind of a bit more fantastical and a bit sort of tongue-in-cheek created. Really.
Was it Pit Fighter that came before this?
I believe around the same time.
Because I remember Pit Fighter had all the computer style, computer captured characters as well, but their fighting controls were not as fluid until the fights were stupidly hard. Liu Kang's gonna beat my ass.
Well, Ed Boon always said that what separated in his mind what Mortal Kombat was that one of the things that separated it was that it was the crazy sort of moves that they put into it, like fireballs and magic moves, which is still, I think, very similar to Street Fighter.
I gotta punch him again. I keep. You bitch.
Well, I mean, the argument really comes down to the fact that you would say that Street Fighter is sort of more precision and more depth in terms of its fighting mechanics.
Yeah.
Whereas Mortal Kombat is really more about the gore and the comedy.
Yes. And it was a fighting game that anybody could play, where Street Fighter took years to
actually
master.
Get to master. Yeah.
I don't remember Liu Kang's moves. Man.
So, really, the plot of Mortal Kombat, because everyone, you look at fighting games where one person is going to punch to death the other person, or kick, whichever, there has to be a story behind it. People don't just fight for the sake of fighting. And, of course, Mortal Kombat, I think, has the greatest lore that makes sense when you look at it compared to any of the other convoluted storylines in other fighting games, if they even have one. And so the series takes place, and I think there are actually 18 surviving realms in the universe of Mortal Kombat.
Really?
I think from what we've gathered so far, I know of at least sort of 6 of them. You've got Earth Realm, Nether Realm, the Realm of the Order, Edenia, but there's a whole bunch of others, and each one of these realms has their entire range of fighters. Now, the rules are in Mortal Kombat that one realm is only allowed to invade another realm if they win 10 consecutive Mortal Kombats.
Yeah.
And I think when we get to this Mortal Kombat, I think it is either the 9th or the 10th Mortal Kombat where Earth Realm has lost against Outworld.
Yeah.
And so it all comes down to the human fighters in this game defeating Shang Tsung in order to prevent that from happening. Of course, the later games would show Shang Tsung is actually been employed by Shao Kahn, who actually is the one who would perpetrate invading Earth Realm or doing other duplicitous things, and then you find out that other people from other realms also want to turn up, and Reptile, one of the most beloved characters and secret characters throughout the game. Now let's just look at the characters, because so many of the characters are the exact same model, and what it's been referred to and called is the palette swap, where you literally have Scorpion and Sub-Zero wearing the exact same outfit, yet one's blue and one is yellow.
Yeah, kind of along the same lines as Ryu and Ken. They were kind of the same, but just something was different. For Ryu and Ken, it was Ken had longer hair and fought with a kick. In this,
they have a slightly different moveset.
Yeah.
I mean, they have. The big difference between Sub-Zero and Scorpion is obvious.
Yeah.
Of when you see them doing their moves and by what color they're dressed in, and then the same would go on for some of the later characters like Quintana, Melina, Jade, and Reptile
Smoke,
again. Also
Ermac,
looking like
Rain, all those characters. Yeah.
But there's even characters which were not characters, which were turned into characters because of the mystery of unlocking secret characters. Like Ermac was originally an error code. Yeah. And yet people went, oh, I bet it's a secret character. And so the game makers went, well, it's not, but now it will be.
Now it will be. We're going to make this whole backstory to Ermac and how he sucks in the souls of all these people and Shinnok and Quan Chi and all that kind of stuff.
So the Earthrealm Warriors, as we have them in the first game, is Liu Kang, Johnny Cage, Sonya Blade, and they also is Kano from Earthrealm?
Kano is from Earthrealm, but he is a bad guy being chased by Sonya.
Yes. And that's it. All of the characters also have their own other reasons for being there other than defending Earthrealm.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I think in a way he's been employed by Shang Tsung to kind of corrupt the fighting so that it's easier for Shang Tsung and Outworld to win the tournament.
Yes.
The crazy thing is, I'm playing this while obviously you're talking, and it's just so weird that the controls are so very basic. I apologize now. I can't remember what Scorpion's fatality is. The only one I do remember is Sub-Zero's. That's why I was pulling it off.
It's been a very long time since I played the original Mortal Kombat myself.
But it's just like punch, kick, all those kind of things. Where
I think in the arcade there was 6 buttons, and then for different consoles, I think they reduced the amount of buttons that there would be.
Hit the... There, I was supposed to hit start. Supposed to hit start, that's why.
Yeah. You have no might.
And that actually did nothing.
What's that?
Well, there's a whole point system in this game.
You get to put your name on the leaderboard
at
the end.
That's it. There's nothing for it. There's no...
It doesn't unlock anything. It's no extra reward. I mean, we're going all the way back to the original inception of Mortal Kombat. Again, which was
arcade. Yeah.
And it was built, for arcade machines, and it was due to the popularity of these arcade machines that the game went, global, went to all of these consoles and spawned the legacy, which is not stopped. And
stopped in the cinema.
Well, it definitely stopped in the cinema. I think the TV show and the comic books have all finally come to a resolution and to an end. Yeah. Until, of course, I mean, even the Mortal Kombat games towards, I think it was, the relaunch, I think in 2011, around Mortal Kombat 10 or Mortal Kombat X time, they literally would reboot the franchise and retell the stories. With obviously much better, graphics and gameplays, and just making sure that every console had a Mortal Kombat on it. So like, there's a new generation of console out. Best get to work on the next Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat, make it more gore, make the bones crunch, the X-rays, all that crazy stuff.
And interestingly, and this game was supposed to be a Universal Soldier movie, but it also has inspiration from Big Trouble in Little China.
Yes,
and you can also see that with the Shaolin monks.
The Shang Tsung character is basically David Lo Pan.
Exactly, yeah. Although the makers did say they were inspired by other films like Zoo Warriors and The Swordsman.
Yeah.
And what I do also find interesting is that nobody ever could come up with a name when they were making Mortal Kombat. Yeah. The 4 of them could not figure out what to call it. And that originally the game was going to be called Kumite, or Dragon Attack, or Death Blow. So it's kind of like, cool. Could you imagine if we've gone all these years buying Death Blow game?
Death Blow 10's out. I need to get it. That was it. Back in the day when we were in school, it was kind of childish, but it was like, why is it called Mortal Kombat? Whenever you kill somebody and rip their head off, they just come back to life the very next bit. It should just be called Immortal Kombat.
It does make a little bit more sense.
But then I always argue with my friends, like, but can you imagine how pissed off you'd be if you went to play your game and every character was dead? because you'd killed them all in the last playthrough. You know.
Well, they do keep adding more and more characters to the store and to the lore as the lore as the games would go on.
I like doing this, right? So I've just done his fatality twice and completely missed Liu Kang. And I should get the money for it as well.
You still what?
I got the fatality money for pulling off the fatality, but left him standing. So I used to do that all the time just for fun. Is just miss Liu Kang's fatality and just leave them standing there.
Well, I mean, there are a ton of Easter eggs and hidden content throughout the Mortal Kombat games, and one of my absolute favorites is Toasty.
It's not in. I don't think it's in this one. I think it only came in number 2.
I think it was in the arcades, and then I think they added it into number 2 in the consoles. I think there was only one game in the series where it was just the sound effect, but they didn't actually have the image of him popping up. And I think he was. I think was he Tobias? Was he the sound person?
Was that Dan Forden?
Yeah, Dan Forden. Yeah, he's the image of the guy. Is Dan Forden who keeps popping up. Yeah. And what I do like is that in the later Mortal Kombat games they would add the conquest mode, or the story mode. And as I was saying, a lot of other fighting games, you'd sort of have these piecemeal, exposition bits just before the fighters would fight, and then maybe just a few lines of dialogue just afterwards. But it didn't really hang the game together. It was all about the game, and then eventually the verses and fighting other people. You didn't really go back to play them for the story. The later Mortal Kombat games added, hours and hours of story modes. And then of
different
course
characters, arcade mode, all that kind of stuff.
The most recent Mortal Kombat really went to town on telling like a 3-hour sort of cinematic story where you would follow each of the characters and then get into a series of fights. And that really works for storytelling in games. Something which the Tekken games would try, and I have to say unfathomably awful in terms of their storytelling.
The Tekken story started really, really well, but then they started getting really over the top with the amount of characters they added.
Ending scenes.
In the Mortal Kombat franchise, they started with the basics and built up on top of that. So the story stayed the same. Like, this is why Mortal Kombat X has done so well, is because they went back to what was originally good, which was the original fight, but took into account all of the stuff that had happened up to that final fight. Like Mortal Kombat X, you have the final fight between Shao Kahn and Raiden.
Yes.
Who were like the last 2 fighters because, well, they're elder gods then, they were immortal. But that all stemmed from Mortal Kombat Armageddon that had already been released on the Wii, that, even though it hadn't done very well, had every single character and sub-boss in all of the games up to that point.
Armageddon, I think it came out in 2006, on the PS2 and Xbox and on the Wii.
Yeah.
It was the sequel to Deception, and it was actually the final title of the original main series. So that there, from Mortal Kombat 1, 1992, all the way up to Armageddon, 2006, is your story, basically.
And that's what I mean. With the success of Mortal Kombat X was basically like, we're going to redo the story. We're going to start all again, basically with everything that you love,
Mortal Kombat X was 2015.
Yeah.
And I think Mortal Kombat in 2011 was the first reboot, which retold Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3. Yeah. And then I think X carries on from there.
And starts a new story with new characters, which is really good. Forward, down, forward, high punch. Yeah,
now, there were some interesting Mortal Kombat titles that came out as well. Now you already, that groan, I think you already know where I'm going with this. And the first, we had Mortal Kombat 1, 2, 3, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, then Mortal Kombat Trilogy, because everything was trilogies, then Alien Trilogy, Die Hard Trilogy, Mortal Kombat Trilogy, and then Mortal Kombat 4, which was the first 3D game, and then Mortal Kombat Mythologies Sub-Zero, which came out in 1997 on the PS1 and on the N64. And it was an action-adventure spin-off about Sub-Zero, and it's a prequel to the first Mortal Kombat game. And it was entirely terrible.
It was. The story works. They've kept the story in with obviously Shinnok and Quan Chi working with each other to conquer the realms, using Sub-Zero to get the elemental power or the amulet that he's after. But yeah, the controls are terrible. You're Sub-Zero, but you have none of your special abilities that obviously you've used for like the last 4 games.
Well, because it's prequel, so
yeah, but it's the fact that you've got to work through this game and defeat all these bosses to get your powers. Man, I game overed.
Really?
Game overed. That's how.
Oh, wow.
That's how long it's been. I game overed in the mirror sequences.
I mean, I have to say that I was a control pad thrower in my youth of video gaming, and yeah, I have to say, I think I destroyed a couple of Sega Mega Drive controllers playing different variations of Mortal Kombat throughout the years.
See, this just shows you the beauty of this game is the fact that back in the day when you ran out of credits, the game just overed. The game was just over and it just went, right, start again.
Yeah.
And so you had to start again. Nowadays, it's like, you've got so many lives, you've got so many continues, you've got so many extras. Oh, did you unlock that thing on level 47? Oh, yeah, and so now you've got that thing now you've got an extra bunch of bonuses. So the game never really ends.
Yeah.
I mean, the story, like in the story mode in the new Mortal Kombat, even though you lost, it was literally like, just keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going, we'll refresh it, and oh, you're not really dead, you're back now.
Well, that's the thing. Throughout the series story, I think nearly all of the characters have died. I think everyone died.
Yeah.
And then they even had zombie versions of those characters as fighters, like zombie Liu Kang. I distinctly remember.
She beat me, I threw her!
And then I think Raiden would somehow go back in time and save everyone from dying to avert from the new cataclysm that's about to occur.
But now Liu Kang and Katana are the king and queen of the Netherrealm. I remember seeing.
Yeah. So he no longer is a defender for Earthrealm?
No.
I don't know. But my favourite Mortal Kombat game was probably Deception and Armageddon. I liked the fact that they... and to an extent, I also liked Deadly Alliance.
Yeah.
I really liked some of the characters they introduced. I liked the 3D environments. I liked them using weapons. I liked watching the blood run down the 3D models.
Yep.
And I really liked the unlock system, the graveyard, the crypt, the underground, where it was just all these tombstones or statues, and you'd have unlocked secret videos of Scorpion or is it Sub-Zero cooking, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, these little funny spoof videos or artworks or unlocking extra characters or extra costumes or extra fatalities, or it was so much content to unlock that, you know, you were taking a random guess as to what you would unlock, and I guess unlock systems have become a staple in every video game ever since anyway. But it's something that's just not there again in the other fighting games, which, you know, so having a great storyline, having these unlock systems, having these Easter eggs, and being really exciting, sort of gory fighting style, just help cement, you know, Mortal Kombat as one of the greatest and one of the biggest selling franchises in the history of video games.
It's definitely up there with, like we said, with Street Fighter. You know,
yes, most definitely.
If you're looking at your top 3, you're looking at Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and Tekken.
Yes,
that's your top 3. You're going to add all these extra games on top of that: Super Smash Bros. Brawl, fucking Dead or Alive. You know, there's all these extra games. But back in the day, Soul Calibur. Back in the day, when you had a Mega Drive. Didn't get time to do it then because you fell over Sub-Zero. You know, you had a Mega Drive, you had Mortal Kombat. You had a Super Nintendo, you had Street Fighter.
Yes.
You know, the games would go on the other console and little twinges here and there.
Interestingly, it was just... It's been quoted as that this was the inception, the beginning of gamer culture.
Yes.
Was when gamers would argue with other gamers as to which was the better.
Yeah.
And you were either a Street Fighter or you were a Mortal Kombat player. You know? You could never be both in the gaming culture.
You couldn't.
You just couldn't. It's like you're either a fanboy or you're not.
And it was that old argument as well. It's like, oh, well, the graphics on Mortal Kombat on the Mega Drive is better than the graphics of Mortal Kombat on the SNES. And, well, the Street Fighter controls are a lot more easier on the fucking Super Nintendo than it was on the Mega Drive. But ultimately, you just bought both. You wanted to buy both consoles. Scorpion, I hate that jump of yours. I hate that jump.
And you know, this also is part of the controversy, really, with the fact that the ESRB rating was being created so that, and then, you know, I think this game was also partially responsible for the Australian classification system, and then, you know, and the fact that different Mortal Kombat games are still banned throughout the world.
Yeah.
Which also helped lead this sort of gamer generation to rally against the authorities, and how fucking dare they tell me what I am allowed to play and what content I'm allowed to see in my video games.
But they had to.
But yeah, and so it was a younger generation in a way fighting back against, our oppressors.
Yeah.
But really it was kids who wanted blood and guts from their parents' video games.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the age-old argument now. Even though we've got the ESRB and all the kick-up that they had when Mortal Kombat came out, parents will still happily just buy their kids Battlefield and Call of Duty and Gears of War and just go,
so nothing's changed.
Just go. Why? Because that generation that that generation that is buying the games nowadays, it's the pit, have bought their kid Call of Duty because, well, back in my day I was playing Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, so what's the harm now?
So what's the harm? I can't remember what the birds. Come on. One
of the other things I distinctly remember from Mortal Kombat games is that before you get into a fight, and more importantly, before you get into a versus fight with either a friend or somebody else, you used to have those like 3 little codes.
That was Mortal Kombat 3.
Mortal Kombat 3 onwards, or a fair few of them would have that feature. But both players would actually have to put in the whole sequence.
Code,
because unless of course you had 2 players, and then if you could very quickly know the code sequence for both controllers, you could add some interesting side effects. And like I said, games were filled with Easter eggs.
Well, in this one, obviously, I had the cheat menu unlocked, and there's a bunch of flags. I can't remember for the life of me what the flags.
What the cheat
flags
code?
do. The cheat code is on the main menu where it says game start. You put down, up, left, ARD.
How have you remembered that?
Because it's just one of those codes. Same as I got pink acid boots on, and the X triangle L1 up down right 2 left code from Doom.
The only one I've ever remembered is Sonic's level select up down left right ABC start.
Yeah, but it's that code that you put in so many times, you never ever forgot it, because if you did forget it, you were fucked. With
there was no internet.
That was it. There was no internet. You had to remember, and
that's one thing I always remember from Mortal Kombat is if you ever open up one of my old Mortal Kombat game cases, sheets of paper would come flying out of it.
All over the place.
Listed with characters' fatalities that you've learned over the years, or scribbled down because somebody passed you the note, or you had 10 minutes with the note with, the actual cheat books that you would buy in magazines.
We didn't even buy them. You picked them off the shelf and had a flick through and then tried to remember
them
down.
and write them down. Yeah.
The thing that always makes me laugh about this first game is Raiden. Now, everybody knows Raiden to be the elder god.
Yes.
Big good guy.
Yes.
Yeah, in this game, I'm going to be Kano in a minute anyway because I haven't been him yet. But in this game, when you complete it with him, it comes up at the end saying about how he realised the pointlessness of having mortals fight in this battle. So he invited all the elder gods over from all the other realms, and they ended up fighting in Mortal Kombat until the world exploded. Have a nice day. And that's what it says at the end of Raiden's end of the movie. So in this one, Raiden is actually the big guy that kills everybody.
Well, I mean, technically, Raiden is there as a character and as a fighter because he's obviously a very interesting character. But he doesn't. I don't think he necessarily does fight, or he's not in the tournament to fight anybody. So I guess it's kind of like a joke ending.
Yeah,
what would if Raiden also went, fuck it, I'm just going to kill everybody.
The thing. He's supposed to be in the story.
He's just there to make sure the rules don't get broken. So the Earth Realm is.
He's the thunder god of Earth Realm, and at the same time, the story hasn't been expanded by that much yet. So at the moment, Shang Tsung is still the evil wizard, and Shao Kahn hasn't even been invented yet.
Yes.
But it is, like you said, it's like Big Trouble in Little China. The Raiden character is mainly just in there because he's that electrical throwing dude from Big Trouble in Little China. And then you got somebody like Kano. His moves are literally. I always didn't like Kano because I couldn't pull off his moves, and then I realized
he's a very powerful character.
He is, because it's just block. It's block and 360 around. I don't know what his knives are. Is it down, forward, back? No. But it's the fact that you just block, so they can't hurt you. And then when you got your ball spinning, you can just hold it and throw it at them. I hate the computer. I hate it when the
It's a
computer
cheating bitch. I
bangs
tell
you into a corner, and then when you try to jump over them, they just jump up in the air, kick you in the face.
Yeah.
And you try to do it again, they just keep
Never
doing
get
it.
out. They put you into a
Come
loop.
on, Sonya.
Yeah.
I've been in pretty much everybody else apart from Sonya. Let's finish it off with Sonya.
So who is your favourite Mortal Kombat character from this game, and then from the whole series?
From the whole series, it's got to be Johnny Cage. I've always
Yeah.
I've always liked Johnny Cage, especially in this one because of the ball punch.
Mm-hmm.
The ball punch was just you never saw it before.
No.
You're just like, what the hell? And you try to do it all the time. Raiden, I would say, is my favorite character from this game because of his ending.
Yeah,
You know,
it's just so, what the hell?
Yeah, when I played all the way through and realized he was the one who destroyed the world, I was like, I like you, Raiden. And then didn't like it in the fact that Mortal Kombat 2 and the rest of them, he turned out to be that guy. He was
Yeah.
the helper, elder god.
Well, my favourite character was always Liu Kang in this game.
Yeah.
And it was the character that I always would use to at least get a completion on any of the Mortal Kombat games because
He's the
I
main
found
character, yeah.
I found that you never knew he was the main character in the first one. It was only until you play the second one that you go, oh, so Liu Kang won the tournament. Well,
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Of course, he did win if I completed the game with him.
Yeah.
But the story then goes, yeah, okay, so he was the champion and would subsequently continue to be the champion for quite a long time. But yeah, in the first game I always used him and would always continue to use him because easier moveset. And generally you could sort of spam those moves against the ridiculously overpowered boss battles towards the end. But when I'm playing against other people in versus, Katana. I always found that the women in Mortal Kombat games were very agile and very fast, and you could pull off quite a few combos and sort of end it with a grab as well. And so I kind of favoured the female characters, but there was still such a glorious variety of characters that you usually in fighting games sort of focus your attention on a single character. But I kind of found with the Mortal Kombat games I could spread it out and actually enjoy playing with a few different characters, and then in the later sequels there are different fighting styles as well.
Yes.
Well, that's going to be it from us here on Off the Shelf Reviews this Gaming Friday. We'll be back next Friday with another video game, of course. Film reviews on Thursdays. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Patreon. We'll see you next time, guys. Thanks for watching.
Fuck you, Johnny Cage!
So, say goodbye, Ian.
Goodbye, Ian!